Your Honor, my client seeks full division of assets because Mrs. Emma failed her most basic duty as a wife. She's sterile. The courtroom went silent. Every head turned toward me. I'm Emma, 29 years old, and the man accusing me of being broken is my husband, Michael. He emptied our bank accounts, called me defective, and now stood beside his pregnant mistress, acting like I was the shameful one. But what Michael didn't know was that the sealed envelope in the judge's hand would flip everything he built against me. He thought he'd already won. He forgot one thing: I don't break quietly. If you've ever been blamed for something that wasn't your fault, hit like so more people see this, and subscribe if you believe truth always finds its way. Tell me where you're watching from. I read every single comment. 6 years earlier, everything looked perfect. I was a pediatric nurse when I met Michael at a hospital fundraiser. He was charming, successful, a man who made promises sound like forever. 8 months later, I was wearing his ring and quitting my job because he said, "Focus on starting a family, Emma. I make enough for both of us." So I did. I gave up my career, my independence, my sense of purpose. Every month we tried, and every negative test made him colder. "You're not trying hard enough," he'd snap. Doctor visits turned into shame sessions. I wasn't his wife anymore. I was a project he wanted to fix. 3 years passed. I'd memorized every fertility drug schedule, every hopeful symptom that ended in heartbreak. The more I tried, the more he blamed me. I wasn't living. I was apologizing for existing. Then, one day, I found divorce papers on his desk. "What are these?" I asked. He didn't even look up. "What does it look like? I'm done wasting my life on someone defective." That word, defective, cut deeper than any scalpel. Hours later, his mother called. "Finally, my son can have the family he deserves." The next morning, Michael was gone. Our joint account was empty. He'd transferred everything to his business accounts, leaving me with $200 and a maxed-out credit card. When I checked my phone, there it was, a mass email to all our friends. Subject line, "Why I'm moving on." He laid out our fertility struggles like a case study, describing my body in clinical detail, painting himself as the patient husband who'd suffered long enough. Within days, the silence started. Friends stopped calling. Invitations vanished. Even my parents said, "Maybe it's for the best." I sat in that quiet house, surrounded by ghosts of the life I'd built for him, wondering how love could rot so fast. The court summons arrived 2 weeks later. Michael had filed for divorce, claiming I'd contributed nothing to our marriage and should receive minimal settlement. His lawyer, Stephen, attached pages of medical reports as proof that I was the problem. I sat in my empty kitchen reading every line until the words blurred. "Mrs. Emma visited fertility specialists 12 times, Stephen wrote. Not once did Mr. Michael require treatment. That detail clawed at me. Michael had always insisted on meeting with doctors alone during consultations. They'd tell me results were inconclusive, that we should keep trying naturally. Why had no one ever tested him? At the pre-trial mediation, Stephen smirked across the table. "We're prepared to settle generously, Mrs. Emma, if you sign a non-disclosure about medical issues." "Generously?" I asked. "You drained every account." He shrugged. "Mr. Michael's been more than patient." I walked out shaking, but something in me refused to crumble. I started gathering everything: texts, receipts, emails, even voicemails where Michael called me a broken investment. That night, I called Rebecca, an old friend from nursing school who'd become a family law attorney. She listened quietly, then said, "Emma, this isn't a divorce. It's a smear campaign. If he's using fertility as grounds, we'll subpoena the clinic records." Her confidence became my lifeline. For weeks, we met at a small coffee shop near the courthouse, reviewing documents under flickering lights. She filed motions, pushed back against Michael's legal team, and treated me like someone worth defending. Meanwhile, Michael seemed to grow bolder. He showed up at court with Amanda, his 24-year-old assistant, her stomach already rounding beneath a designer dress. She smiled at me sweetly and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "It's sad when women can't accept biology." Michael said nothing, just watched as her words sliced me open. I stopped sleeping. Every night I replayed his lies in my head, the way he'd rewritten our history. How many times had he told me he loved me while knowing the truth? Then I remembered something Dr. Lauren, our fertility specialist, once said. "I'm so sorry about the results, Emma. I wish I could share more, but confidentiality laws prevent me from discussing your husband's file." At the time, I hadn't understood. Now those words haunted me. His file. I filed a request for all our medical records. Days later, the envelope arrived. Inside, my own tests read perfectly normal. No infertility, no defects. But there was a note attached to a section labeled Family File. Husband declined to share results with spouse per written request. My heart pounded. Michael had hidden something big. And for the first time since he left, I felt something stronger than heartbreak. I felt fire. The first day of court felt like walking into an execution. Cameras clicked as Michael arrived with Amanda on his arm. Her pregnancy impossible to miss. He didn't look at me. He didn't have to. His smirk said everything. He'd already won. Inside the courtroom, his lawyer Stephen began with his opening statement. "Your Honor, my client supported his wife for years while she failed to fulfill her marital obligations. He financed every treatment, every specialist, while she contributed nothing to the marriage." Each word landed like a slap. Stephen projected photos of vacations Michael paid for, the house in his name, the credit card statements he'd purposely maxed out to frame me as financially irresponsible. Then Michael took the stand. "I loved my wife," he said, voice dripping with false sympathy. "But after years of disappointment, we had to accept reality. She couldn't give me a family." The gallery whispered. Amanda dabbed fake tears. I sat frozen. For 3 years, I'd believed his narrative, that I was broken, that my body had failed. But now, knowing what I knew, my silence burned in my throat. When cross-examination began, Rebecca stood, calm and deliberate. "Mr. Michael, you testified that your wife was diagnosed as infertile, correct?" "Yes," he said confidently. "By which doctor?" He hesitated. "Dr. Lauren, Riverside Fertility Clinic." Rebecca nodded. "Interesting. Because according to the clinic's documentation, Mrs. Emma's fertility markers were normal." Stephen jumped up. "Objection! Those records were sealed." Rebecca's eyes didn't waver. "Your Honor, we filed a motion to unseal all medical evidence used as grounds for asset division." Judge Williams leaned forward. "Motion granted. The court will review the sealed records in chambers." Michael's smug expression cracked for the first time. His hand gripped the table, knuckles white. The next sessions were brutal. Michael's family attended, glaring at me from the back row. In the hallway, I overheard his mother whisper, "Amanda will give him the children Emma never could." Michael laughed softly. "Should have done this years ago." That night, I saw his post online, him and Amanda, smiling under a caption, "Starting my real family. Some dreams just need the right person." He tagged all our mutual friends. I wanted to scream. Instead, I sent the screenshot to Rebecca. Her reply came within minutes. "Let him celebrate. It'll make tomorrow even sweeter." The morning of the final hearing, I wore a simple blue dress. My hands shook, but not from fear, from anticipation. When Judge Williams entered, the courtroom hushed. In his hand was a thick manila envelope stamped confidential medical records. He cleared his throat. "Before we proceed to closing statements," he said, "this court must address new evidence." Michael shifted in his seat. Stephen whispered something, but the judge raised a hand. "I've reviewed documentation from Riverside Fertility Clinic," he continued. "Mr. Michael, your testimony stated your wife was sterile. These records tell a different story." The air thinned. Even Amanda stopped smiling. The judge looked directly at him. "Your file, Mr. Michael, indicates a diagnosis of severe male factor infertility, dated 4 years ago." Gasps echoed through the room. And for the first time, Michael looked scared. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Michael's face drained of color. "Your Honor, there must be a mistake," he stammered. Judge Williams adjusted his glasses. "The clinic's report leaves little room for misunderstanding. You were informed of your infertility 4 years ago and requested the results remain confidential from your wife." Rebecca stood, voice sharp. "Your Honor, that concealment is central to this case. Mr. Michael used fabricated claims of his wife's infertility to justify financial manipulation and emotional abuse." Stephen jumped in, desperate. "Objection! These records violate my client's privacy." The judge's tone turned ice cold. Privacy ends when deceit becomes evidence. I could barely breathe. The man who'd called me defective had been hiding his own diagnosis. 4 years of lies. 4 years of humiliation. Rebecca tapped her laptop. "Your Honor, we have additional evidence." On the screen, a text thread appeared between Michael and Amanda dated 8 months earlier. Michael, "Once the divorce is done and everyone thinks it was her fault, no one will question our timeline." Amanda, "She still believes it's her problem. You're brilliant." The gallery gasped. Rebecca continued, "Amanda was already 7 months pregnant when the divorce was filed. Mr. Michael fabricated infertility claims to shift blame and secure asset advantage." Judge Williams's expression hardened. "Mr. Michael, do you deny these messages?" Michael's lips moved, but no sound came out. I stood up, my voice trembling yet steady. "You knew. You knew for 4 years, and you let me think I was broken. You let me beg doctors for hope while you built a new life behind my back." Tears blurred my vision, but rage anchored me. "You destroyed my career, my friendships, my reputation, all to hide your own shame." Michael finally spoke. "Emma, I cut him off. "No, you don't get to speak now. You've done enough talking." Rebecca turned to the judge. "Your Honor, given the deliberate deception, emotional distress, and financial manipulation, we request a full forensic accounting of all marital assets." The judge nodded slowly. "Granted. Furthermore, I am restoring Mrs. Emma's access to all joint accounts effective immediately, pending investigation." Stephen tried to object again, but Judge Williams's gavel came down hard. "Sit down, counselor." The silence that followed was heavy, then freeing. Michael sat slumped, eyes fixed on the floor, while Amanda's face crumpled beside him. For months, they'd paraded their story like a victory. Now everyone knew the truth. Rebecca placed a hand on my shoulder. "You did it," she whispered. I looked toward Michael one last time. "You spent years making me believe I was nothing, but today you get to watch me remember who I am." I didn't cry. I didn't thank the judge. I just walked out of that courtroom into the sunlight, the sound of the gavel still echoing behind me, like the closing door of a chapter I'd never reopen. When I stepped outside, sunlight hit my face like a promise I'd almost forgotten. Rebecca walked beside me, smiling. "You did it," she said softly. Michael stood by his car, Amanda crying beside him. For months, he'd painted me as the failure, the burden, the broken one. Now the truth hung in the air like justice finally breathing. His family, his friends, his colleagues, they all knew. But I didn't need his apology. I didn't need his guilt. I had already chosen myself. The next morning, I called my old nursing supervisor. There was an opening in the pediatric ICU, my dream department. "Come back," she said. "You were always one of the best." 3 weeks later, the settlement came through. Fair division of assets, plus compensation for emotional distress. I used part of it to rent a small apartment, sunny, quiet, entirely mine. For the first time in years, I slept without fear. One evening, as I unpacked the last box, I found the framed photo from our wedding. Michael's arm around me, both of us smiling. I almost threw it away, but instead, I slipped the photo out and kept the frame. It was too good to waste on something that never was. Because that's what healing is. Not pretending the past didn't happen, but choosing what you carry forward. He once told me I was defective. But the truth is, I was never broken. He was just too small to see my strength. If you've ever been blamed for something that wasn't your fault, know this. You can rebuild. You can rise again. Hit like if you believe the truth always wins. Subscribe if you've ever had to fight for your worth. And drop your location below because stories like ours deserve to be heard. You're not alone. I read every single comment.